Hi. So I had a lot of issues with the screen Cast-O-Matic, so we're just gonna use my phone. Um, yeah, so I'm reading it again. Nature Scales, uh, Weighing Environmental Issues, and so it's just about some things that are going on in today's society that focus on the environment. Okay. Mention the environment, and you will probably hear as many strong opinions as there are people in the room. Why do people care so much about nature, Earth's land, water, air, and animals? It's because nature offers so much. It provides resources for food, homes, employment, recreation, transportation, and more. There is another reason why the environment sparks heated discussions. Earth's growing population means that ways must be found to share the planet's natural resources with other humans and with animals. Sharing is a fine policy, but in practice it can be difficult. Everyone has a different idea about how resources should be divided. This book includes 4 sections, each focusing on the different environmental issue. First, you will read a brief description of the issue and what it means. Then you will read 2 different viewpoints on the matter. As you read, consider the arguments offered in support of each viewpoint. In any debate about the environment, you will find many facts and an equal amount of emotion. Sometimes the same fact can be used to support a claim on both sides. It all depends on how the information is presented or interpreted. As you read, think about each issue and your own feelings on the matter. Then consider which side you would take in a debate. The author highlighted 2 key terms, environment and natural resources. So what do you guys think those mean? Environment is the surroundings or conditions a person, animal, or plant lives in, and natural resources are materials or substances that occur in nature. Grizzlies. Bring them back or let them go. In stories of the Old West, cowboys often gathered around the campfire to sing an old tune. In those days, there was another animal that roamed the plains and foothills of the Rocky Mountains. This animal was seldom mentioned in song. It was a creature that was both feared and respected by most people, the grizzly bear. Grizzly bears once roamed freely throughout central Idaho and central Montana. When settlers began moving into the region in the 1800s, they brought livestock with them. To the bears, these herds of sheep, cattle, and horses were easy prey. The author highlighted the word livestock. Using context clues from the rest of the sentence, we know it has something to do with herds of sheep, cattle, and horses. Livestock are just any farm animal. Of course, the settlers did not want their costly animals to become grizzly food, so they began to kill any bears that came close to their livestock. They also killed some that did not. In fact, by the 1930s, the grizzly bear was no longer seen in the region. This didn't happen just in Idaho and Montana. By 1975, there were very few grizzly bears left in the continental U.S., and the animals were on the threatened list. The author highlighted continental U.S. So what do you guys think that means? The continental U.S. are all the connected states in North America, like the United States country. So this would disclude Hawaii and Alaska. Because of its threatened status, the grizzly fell under the protection of the Endangered Species Act. This law directs the federal government to take action in order to protect species whose numbers have dropped. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service now plans to bring grizzly bear back to Idaho and Montana, to the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness, which includes part of eastern Idaho and western Montana. Scientists and environmentalists say that bears are necessary to restore the balance of nature in that region. But some ranchers and residents close to the area are against reintroduction of the grizzly. They say the bear will again prey on livestock, and they fear that people won't want to spend time in the wilderness if they have to share it with bears. Should the grizzly bear be returned to the wilderness? Read on to learn about 2 different viewpoints on the matter. Then consider how you feel about the issue. A vote for the grizzlies. What is a wilderness without one of its wildest creatures? The grizzly bear. It is estimated that in the early 1800s there were almost 100,000 grizzlies roaming North America. Today, the grizzly population is less than half that. Grizzlies have nearly been eliminated everywhere in the United States except Alaska. In fact, in the continental U.S., fewer than 1,000 bears now occupy less than 1% of the land they originally roamed. To environmentalists, this is a warning. The grizzly bear is an indicator species. That means it serves as a measure of the environment's health in a particular location. When an indicator species is in trouble, it means the entire ecosystem is out of balance. Ecosystem is bolded, so what do you guys think that means? An ecosystem is a community of organisms or living things interacting with their environment. Supporters of reintroducing the grizzlies say that animals help the wilderness's habitat. By preying on sick animals, grizzly bears help to keep deer, bison, and other animal populations healthy and strong. Bears also spread seeds from the plants they eat. If there are no grizzly bears left to play these roles, countless other species may suffer. Those in favor of reintroducing the grizzly also point out that the odds of being attacked by a bear are slim. In fact, biologists say the chance is 1 in a million. In wilderness areas, more people die from drowning, climbing accidents, and heart failure than from grizzly attacks. Supporters of grizzlies feel that the benefits of returning the species to a small part of its former habitat far outweigh the risks. One important reason for the grizzlies' decline has been the loss of their natural habitat. Because of their large size, grizzlies consume a lot of food. They can eat 80 to 90 pounds of food per day during their peak eating period. Summer to early fall. Grizzlies are omnivorous. They eat both meat and plants. But since they eat so much, they need a large area in which to hunt. In many places, it is difficult for grizzlies to find enough food because humans have changed the landscape. Towns, highways, and railroads have cut the bears' natural range into smaller and smaller sections. Activities such as logging, mining, ranching, and tourism have further changed the grizzlies' feeding grounds. It is almost impossible to keep the bears from crossing human boundaries and coming into contact with people. Environmentalists and scientists are convinced that there is only one way to save the magnificent animal. It must have a home in the wilderness away from people. Rather than protecting people from grizzlies, effort should be made to protect grizzlies from people. A vote against the grizzlies. Let's face it, the grizzly is not your average bear. These enormous creatures can weigh as much as 1,500 pounds. A mature grizzly can run at speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, much faster than the fastest human runner. Grizzlies have jaws and teeth that are capable of snapping a pine tree in half. They have strong upper limbs and 6-inch claws. A grizzly can kill a moose, elk, or buffalo with a single swipe of its powerful paws. It's no surprise, then, that some people say that grizzly bears should be kept as far away from humans as possible. One Idaho resident claims that bringing the bear back is like introducing sharks at the beach. Some people see nothing wrong with letting the grizzly bear become extinct. The author highlighted the word extinct. What do you guys think that means? Extinct means that it can no longer be found on Earth. They say that extinction is a natural process and should be not interfered with. They point out that the vast majority of species that have ever lived on Earth are now extinct. Biologists say grizzly bears are naturally wary of people, but statistics indicate otherwise. Bears have killed several dozen backpackers and hunters in North America in the past century. In 1998, there were 263 confirmed human-grizzly encounters in the western United States. This is an all-time record. More than half of these incidents took place in developed areas near homes, and not in the forest or mountains. Clearly, the bears that still do live in the West have become used to people. As the bears lose their fear of humans, there is more chance for trouble. Why make the problem worse by bringing more bears back to the area? Hungry bears will attack livestock. This has been happening ever since people established sheep and cattle ranches close to the bears' habitat. Some ranchers have reported losing 6 or 7 animals a night to grizzlies. Naturally, the loss of expensive livestock is an economic problem for these ranchers. Certainly, there are things communities and ranchers can do to discourage bears. One idea is to install bright lights around livestock pens. Another is to keep ranches, towns, and campgrounds clean and free of garbage. Still, the issue remains. Bears are bears and people are people. The two just don't mix. Our next section is cities. Growing places or wide open spaces. America has changed greatly in the last 55 years. Between 1945 and 2000, the United States population rose from 133 million to 281.4 million. To serve the needs of this growing population, homes, schools, office buildings, and shopping malls have been built. They stand on land that was once forest, prairie, wetland, or farmland. Many cities and towns across America continue to expand into outlying areas. This kind of rapid growth is called urban sprawl. Some people say there is no cause for worry. There is plenty of open land in the United States. They say that developing the land is a sign of healthy growth. They feel that people should have the right to build homes and businesses wherever land is available. Others believe that there is a need to preserve land for farming, wildlife habitats, and other conservation purposes. They say that the growth of these cities and suburbs should be controlled. A key term that we should focus on is the term habitats. So what do you guys think that means? Habitats are the natural home of living things. On the following pages, you will read about 2 different viewpoints on community development. The people in the town are not real. However, the problems and decisions they face are. After reading, consider how you feel. Should this community growth be limited or not? A vote against growth. For the past 4 years, Sally Jones has been the mayor of Urbandale, a community located in the eastern United States. Her ties to the city go back much further, though. Sally was born and raised in Urbandale. During her 39 years, she has seen the city experience amazing growth. When I was 10, the town was like an island. It was all by itself in a sea of green, Sally said. A beautiful pine forest bordered the northern edge of Urbandale. Owls and hawks used to nest there in the spring. South and east of town, there were grassy fields dotted with oak trees. They circled Cattail Pond, where we fished for bluegills when I was a kid. To the west, there were small farms and hayfields. Back then, only a few thousand people lived in Urbandale. But when folks saw what a nice town we had, they wanted to live here too, said Sally. People from a large city 40 miles northwest of Urbandale began buying small pieces of land and putting up houses, one here, one there. By the time Sally was 20 years old, there were many new houses in Urbandale. Because the land was in demand, prices went up. Some farmers began to sell off large parcels of land. They could make more money that way than farming. Before long, farming was no longer an important part of Urbandale's economy. Many of the city's new residents were commuters. They drove to their jobs in the larger city, 40 miles away. Traffic became so bad that the state transportation department decided to build an expressway. It was called Pine Highway, in honor of the forest it replaced, Sally recalled. People said the new road took 10 minutes off their commute. That's nice for them, but not for the owls and hawks. Once the forest was gone, so were the birds. The year Sally turned 35, a developer bought large section of Urbandale's remaining open space, including Cattail Pond. Hundreds of new apartments were built and thousands of people moved in. The pond, once home to bluegills and cattails, was drained to become a golf course. The increase in population brought many problems with it. Urbandale's utility company struggled to provide enough water and electricity to the new homes. Added traffic meant that even with Pine Highway, roads were crowded with commuters. Before long, the once clean air of Urbandale began to show signs of pollution. That was the last straw for Sally. She was upset by the rapid changes taking place. She was concerned about the loss of the city's beautiful natural features. So Sally decided to do something about it. She ran for mayor of Urbandale on a no-growth platform and won by a narrow margin. Urbandale has been swallowed whole, she said. There is nothing but houses, highways, and businesses between here and the big city. And what's happening here is happening all around the country. In the United States, the amount of land that has changed from rural to urban has risen steadily. We don't want any more of that kind of growth here in Urbandale. Sally has promised to stop development. She wants to restore forested areas and open spaces and bring back a small town feeling. The job will not be easy. A proposal for a new 6-lane expressway is before the city council, and the last remaining parcel of open land is due to become an industrial park. A vote for growth. Sally's twin brother, Sam, has also lived in Urbandale all his life. As children, Sam and Sally loved to fish together in Cattail Pond. That memory and a fondness for Urbandale are about the only things the twin now share. There's no such thing as urban sprawl, said Sam. What people like my sister call sprawl is really just growth. Growth is natural. It's necessary. Communities would fade away without it. He remembers the old Urbandale as a poky little town, without much to do or see. When Sam was young, Urbandale didn't have a movie theater or a bowling alley. There were no decent soccer fields or baseball diamonds. The nearest hospital was 40 miles away. The high school was small and its programs were limited. It didn't even have a science lab or a marching band. What about Cattail Pond? Sure, the fishing was fun, Sam says, but everybody forgets about the horrible mosquitoes and the spring flooding. Today's bustling Urbandale is more to Sam's liking. The city has well-equipped schools, a community recreation center, and a big library. There are many restaurants and shops, and good medical facilities. Sam is the director of Urbandale's Commerce Club. This organization was established to promote the city and attract new businesses and industries. The Commerce Club's most recent project is the industrial park proposal. All right, I've gone too long. But yes, I would just continue that for the rest of the book. I have other terms labeled, and I have all the definitions on the back. Yes, perfect.